I still predominantly play the piano by ear. I can read music, but only really simple music. Because my thing was, if I heard it, I could reproduce it.
Sure. So let's talk about, we talked about the gospel influence. So when did the R&B influence come into play? Like, how old were you? Were you talking mid-teens, early teens? Like, who are some of the first groups that caught your ear and you were like, wow, I like that sound, I want to try to learn that as well?
I've been listening to music my entire life. You know, my parents had their coming of age during the Motown era. So of course, you know, I'm familiar with the entire Motown roster, Junior Walker and the All-Stars, the Jackson 5, you know, you can't say Motown without the Jackson 5, the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Supremes, et cetera, et cetera. Then there was the Philadelphia sound with the OJs and the Spinners and the Shy-Lights and the Delphonics. I mean, you name it, my parents had it in the house. And the big thing was on Saturday after the cartoons went off, it was time to put on music and clean house. And we would just put a stack of records on the record player. Again, showing my age, because people are like, what? You mean like, is that like something like Rhapsody or what is that? No, it's just, you put records on it and you put the thing, the arm comes over, the needle drops on there and plays the records. So we put a stack of records on the record player and clean the house, and we listened to everything. I mean, my parents made sure that my sister's also musically inclined as well, plays piano and sings. We listened to everything. We were exposed to everything from gospel to classical to R&B to classic rock, and so we soaked up even country, everything. But as far as the R&B was concerned, I think it really started to come into play in my life, probably in my teen years, because you know, right around the time I discovered girls. You know.
So transitioning to this new project, would you say maybe it's always been in the works and it finally came together, or how do you feel about that?
I think this project is a culmination of everything that it is everything I've ever really wanted to put together. There actually is a song on this project that was previously released with my best friend, my brother. I sang in a group called Soul Project. We were R&B duo, and it was a song called "Baby I Promise." And I actually went back and added more to it, remastered and polished it up. So yeah, I definitely feel like, and you know, there's still more. There's a lot more. I just felt like I essentially just started working on the project until I said, you know what, it's just time to stop. Because once the creative juices started flowing, I'd go put in a full day's work, get home and eat dinner. It was 9, 10, 11. You know, my wife would roll over and go, what are you doing? It's 1:30 in the morning, writing lyrics. I gotta write lyrics.
So what do you want people to take away from this project?
I think you know the gold standard in the music industry to this day, some 33, 34, 35 years later, is Michael Jackson's Thriller, where every single song, it doesn't matter what song it is, as soon as you hear it in the club and the radio, whatever, you just stop what you're doing, you want to listen to it. That's not my aim, because I realize that everything is not for everybody, but I wanted to put together a project where at least, you know, you may find a song that touches you in some way, and that's your song there. There are 7 songs in a spoken piece. I had to do a spoken intro because the spoken intro was to introduce the 2 pieces that were created and composed by my children, 2 of my children. My oldest son, Sean, appears on this album. He is a budding rap artist, and so I wanted to bring him into the spotlight. So he did a short piece. Is kind of his coming out, and then my daughter wrote a violin piece for my father, which she entitled Papa's Song, and I wanted to put that on there as well. So there are 7 musical pieces, and then the spoken piece with me introducing my children's songs. They're both on. They're at the end of they're at the very end of the album. They are the headliners of this project, and I don't know. I know that people have worked with their kids in the industry in the past. I think of Eddie and Gerald Levert comes to mind. Not that she did a whole lot more in the industry, but Eminem having his daughter Haley on My Dad's Gone Crazy, and Billy Ray Cyrus bringing his daughter into the industry. I mean, there have been examples of people working with their children in the industry, but and I've said this before on social media, that the true test of a man's legacy is the influence he has on his kids. And to see 2 of my, I have 4 children, and to see that 2 of my children are not only musically inclined, but they also have an interest in performing and composing and doing some of the same things that I do. So yeah, I definitely wanted to include them on this project. Okay. But the thing that I want people to take away from it is, I want them to find it, not necessarily go searching for one, but I wanted to put together a project where they listened to it and they were like, this is my song right here. I like the whole thing, but this is my song right here. So,
is there anything else you want to talk about in particular with this project? Anything that people should know while they're listening to it? I know it's available on all digital outlets.
And, you can find it. I mean,
so what's that inside info that you want to share people? So as they're listening to a particular song, they can, look at this interview and know.
I'm pretty sure people can figure out if they listen. There are, as I mentioned before, 7 tracks on there, and 7 musical tracks on there, and there are 3 songs in particular. One is called Rush. One is called the first track is called Rush. The second track is Never Been, and then there's another track called Thank You. It's an interlude, just the acoustic piano. It's called Thank You. I'm pretty sure anybody that know, especially people that know me on a personal level, pretty sure they can figure out those songs are all about my wife. Rush is actually a playful musical take on how my wife and I met. Never Been is pretty self-explanatory. The hook in the song talks about how I've never been so much in love with you. And then Thank You is just a song about a guy who just wants to thank his woman for being there for him, for holding him up when he's not at his best, and for believing in him when nobody else believes. And and that one is definitely true. I mean, as much as my wife would have liked for me to be in bed next to her sleeping, she was like, you know what, this is something you've been wanting to do for a long time. I mean, the whole story behind it is funny because I called her one day and said, hey, what would you say if I told you I could get a new keyboard for really, really cheap? And she's like, well, if you can do it, then go ahead and do it. And so, because a lot of times, you say to your wife, I'm going to spend some money. Like, what you spending money on? And she's like, no, baby, go ahead and get it. And then when I got home, she didn't even gripe about it. She was like, I want to see it. I want to see it. So, it's upstairs in the lab now. She's supported me 108%. She's actually sat with me while I'm doing recordings and tried real hard not to bust out laughing.
Any closing thoughts before we get out of here and wrap it up?
Hey man, I appreciate you coming and approaching me about this and giving me the opportunity to put this out there, because I really didn't want to do a huge media blitz, but how can people find out about what you're doing if you don't get the word out there? So I want to take time to thank you for having me on the show with the illustrious Romeo Devine.
Beach, toes in the sand, I'm gently holding your hand, and all I wanna do is be your man. Give me a chance to show you I can. All I need's a little time, you'll be my #1 fan. I'm hoping that you won't say no and then dismiss me.